Hey, welcome once again to this edition of the Golden Rule, which means that we treat others the way we want them to treat us. And today we've got a special program for you because it's going to tell you about an event that's taking place as we speak, starting on June 26th through the 30th. It's called Feeding the 5,000. Now, those of you who've been around Detroit Lakes for a long time, remember that this happened once before at Christian Fellowship Church. How many years ago?
8 years ago.
Let me introduce my guest, Tim Rice. Also happens to be my pastor.
Hello. Hello.
And I'm glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Barry.
This is such an exciting thing, folks. And, there's a lot of people don't even know, when you say feeding the 5,000, they have no frame of reference to what that means. And so I'm going to ask Pastor Tim to just explain the Bible version of it and what we're going to do here in Detroit Lakes.
Well, thanks again for inviting me, Barry. I really appreciate this time, and I'm glad to be able to speak to our community. So thanks for having me. We have an account in the Bible. Actually, it's in all four of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. There are a lot of stories that we read that are not in all four Gospels, but this happens to be one of them. There was a point in time when Jesus' cousin, John the Baptist, was murdered, and he was really murdered for standing up to a government official, the king. And when that happened, Jesus tried to go away. He was just trying to get away from the crowds of people. And again, we read about this in all four gospel accounts, but the account of John reads like this. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs that he had performed by healing the sick. Jesus went up to the mountainside and he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover feast was near. So Jesus was trying to get away. He just had some tragic news and he was trying to get away. The book of Matthew says that Jesus was moved with compassion. Here in the book of John, he goes on and he says, when Jesus looked and he saw the great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, one of his disciples, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Jesus had a plan. Jesus always has a plan. He's never caught off guard. He always has a plan. So Philip was a little befuddled by this, and he answered, it would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough food for each one to have a bite. Another of his disciples, Andrew's brother, Peter, spoke up, and he said, here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish. But we're not really sure how far that's going to go or how many people that can feed. Jesus said, have the people sit down. And there was plenty of grass in the place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men. Now that's not including the women and children. So we're estimating there's somewhere around 15,000 people. Jesus then took the 5 loaves, and he gave thanks, and he distributed them to those who were seated, as much as they wanted, and he did the same with the fish. When they had all they had enough to eat, when they all had enough to eat, he said to the disciples, gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. So they gathered them, and they filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten.
Do you believe this actually happened this way it was described here?
I actually do believe it.
Serious?
I really believe it. This is the creator of the universe.
That's right.
And Andrew is befuddled. Peter's kind of confused. What are we going to do with just 5 small loaves of barley?
And he doesn't just
fish.
multiply, he does in abundance. He not only fed thousands with 5 loaves and 2 fish, but he had 12 baskets full of leftovers.
In the book of Matthew, it says that he filled them until they were satisfied. And when I read that this morning, I thought, oh, you're satisfied with your service? Yeah, I'm satisfied. Mm-hmm. But this isn't until they were, I'm satisfied.
No.
This is until,
full.
Man, I can't eat anymore. I've had all the bread and fish that I can take. So much so that each one of the disciples got to take home a basket. Now, I'm not sure how big the baskets were, but it's still 12 baskets of leftover
All right,
food.
now we're running out of time, so let's get to the Feed the 5,000 in Detroit Lakes.
Well, here's what we're going to do. On June 26th, beginning at 11 o'clock in the morning, you can come on over to the parking lot at Christian Fellowship on Highland Drive. And what we're going to do is we're going to serve 5,000 people. 8 years ago when we did this, it took us 5.5 days, and we served 5,200 meals in this community. We're not going to be able to just, I don't think, bless the hamburgers and break them and have them spread all over the place. But we've got food, and we've got 4 churches that are going to be represented at this time. We've had other churches in our local area who just said, hey, can we be part? Can we be part? So Harvest Fellowship from Frazee, Lakes Area Mennonite Church from out on Highway 34, and
Pinewood Chapel.
Along with Christian Fellowship. And so we're inviting you to come on out, and anytime from 11 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, we're going to have burgers, brats, hot dogs, we'll have chips, we'll have beans. Some of the ladies are talking about making goodies, we'll have pop. Come on out and just enjoy the beautiful weather, have some fellowship with your friends, bring your family, bring your neighbors, and there's no cost.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what are you going to charge?
Yeah, we're not fundraising.
Sweet.
We're actually just giving. We want to bless our community. You know what it means to bless?
Yeah.
What does it mean to bless, Barry?
It means to make people feel good, make them happy, do something good for them, even if they don't deserve it. You know, I mean, can a person come more than one time?
They can come as many times as they want to.
So you're
if
gonna
they'd
do
like to have lunch and supper, come on over.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
And from 11 to 7.
11 to 7. The goal there is we want to be able to catch people for lunchtime, but for those who can't make it at lunchtime, come on over for supper. Bring your kids, bring the neighbor kids, bring the neighbor kids and the neighbor's parents, whatever it takes. Just come on over and have a meal.
What if you end up with more than 5,000 people?
We've got some extra burgers on hold for midweek. How's that?
It'll work out fine. God will either multiply the food or multiply the people or both.
We're really excited, folks. It's just simply a way for us as a church to say, we want to bless you. And so we're inviting you to come. The amazing part is, even as we had a men's group earlier this week, one of the gentlemen in our men's group said, well, how long ago was that? Because I had somebody this week tell me, oh, Christian Fellowship, that's where they fed the 5,000. And he had no idea that it was 8 years ago that happened.
Wow.
You know what? It's just a good thing to do.
So you're going to do something with prayer too?
Yeah. We will have a prayer tent set up. And basically, it's just simply, if you have a need, maybe you've had a bad day, maybe you got bad news, maybe you found out you have a friend who has bad news, and you just want someone to pray with you. We're going to have a prayer tent set up, and you'll be able to go into that prayer tent. It'll be confidential. There'll be a couple of people in there who'll be willing to just pray with you. Again, just to bless people.
That is so exciting. So what was your peak crowds? At what time of day did most of the people show up?
So the first time we did this, our first day, can I tell the story?
Yeah,
our first
go ahead.
day, one of my elders called me at the end of the day and he said, how'd it go? And I said, good. He said, how many people do you have? I said, 300. He said, I did the math. You're not going to make it. And so we kind of laughed. The second day he called me, he said, how many people do you have? I said, 600. He said, I did the math. You're not going to make it. The third day we fed 1,100 people at lunchtime. In 1 hour we fed 1,100 people. And so I called him up and I said, guess what? We're going to make it. So please come on down. Just have a meal on us.
That's it. That's this week, right now. As we're speaking to you, it's happening. 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday, until 7 in the evening. And you can bring some guys from people from your office, take your lunch break, come on out and chow down and kind of hang out. And we're going to be having little printed accounts of this Bible story because a lot of people don't know what it is. And so we'll have them, is that right?
Yeah, they'll be available. I want to say one other thing. There are plenty of businesses in the community. We're going to tell more about this a little bit later, but there have been lots of support from local businesses as well. So we just want to say thank you if you're a business and you've helped contribute to this, or a local person, or people who volunteered. Thank you so much for helping out. We just appreciate it because, again, it's our goal to just bless this community.
Yeah, we tried to round up as many helpers as we could ahead of time. But if somebody just showed up, like they had lunch and then they said, can I help you clean up or something, what would you say?
Come on back, man. We'll find a spot for you.
Thank you so much for watching. Remember, this show appears 42 times every week. If you're watching it on Monday, you can watch it over and over at 4-hour intervals, or you can watch it on lakestv3.com. So that's it. Come join us. Hot dogs, hamburgers, brats, and all kinds of extra goodies. You're going to absolutely love it, and bring some friends. God bless you, and we'll see you at Christian Fellowship Church today. Amen.